Once again, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's topic is dairy plant effluent treatment. As you all know, every industry, every plant generates some waste. So in this case, the liquid waste is called effluent. So here we will discuss about the effluent and source from the dairy plant, their characteristics and different methods of treatment and certain final parameters before discharging the treated water and little bit about treating the sludge, etc. So this topic will be covered under this 5 subheading: introduction, sources of effluent, characteristics of dairy plant effluent, then dairy effluent treatment strategies and methods in details, and some conclusion. And I wish to mention that this topic I have already covered for abattoir and meat plant effluent treatment, but there the nature and characteristics of the effluents are different, and naturally the strategies are little bit different. The dairy industry is much more well developed and it has got very huge engineering establishments. So here the approaches of treatment will be slightly different. So here is a basic introduction. As I have mentioned, the effluent means the liquid discharge, the waste water coming out from any industry, it is called effluent. So in case of dairy industry, it is a highly water intensive, means a large amount of water is used at different phases and different activities, and that water could be 1 to 3 liter of water per liter of milk processed. And in general, a dairy plant generates a effluent of 3 to 3.5 liter per liter of milk processed. Means if 100 liter of milk is processed in a dairy plant, it will generate 300 to 350 liter of effluent. That's the waste water. Now what is this effluent? It is mostly organic in nature. So in other industry, it will be chemicals involved. Here mostly the organic materials are involved, and these organic materials has got more pollution capacity, and that pollution capacity is measured or expressed through BOD and COD, which I am going to explain little later, and also through dissolved substances and suspended solids. These are other two indicators about the quality of such effluent. Here we will see the major sources of effluent. Firstly, the cooling water. The major is in cooling tower. As you have seen outside, there will be a cooling tower where large amount of water is used. Then little bit in water softener. Then water recirculation in compressor head. Then sanitary wastewater, that is the cleaning and washing. We have discussed thoroughly about the cleaning and washing in dairy plants. So large amount of water comes out through this process. And then industrial wastewater like spillage of milk and its product, spoiled products and byproducts, and non-dairy ingredients. So these are also coming out through the washing with the liquid waste. So whole thing we call it effluent. Here is some important pollution parameters through which the quality of effluent is measured. That is the biological oxygen demand. So it is the amount of oxygen consumed by the aerobic organism at a temperature of 20 degrees Celsius for a period of 5 days to decompose this effluent. It is used to determine the concentration of pollutant before and after treatment of effluent. So in other words, biologically, if we have to oxidize the effluent, how much oxygen is required in 5 days, and first 5 days at 20 degrees Celsius. Similarly, there is another way called chemical oxygen demand. Here it is done by chemically and measured how much oxygen is required to decompose the pollutant. Then there is another important parameter called TSS, that is the total suspended solids. The solids which don't settle at the bottom, neither at the floating of surface. So such materials which remains inside the water, just like neither settling nor floating, they are called total suspended solids. Similarly, there is another one, that is oil and grease content. So immiscible substances with a lower specific gravity which make them to float, measured using hexane or freon. In continuation, let us understand the characteristics of effluent. So in case of dairy wastewater, it is highly complex substances, and the constituents could be carbohydrates, proteins, and FOG, that is the fat, oil and grease, and their proportion can be different depending on the type of product processed. So in cream, butter, cheese and whey productions are major sources of BOD in wastewater. So when we make cream, butter, cheese, whey, there will be large amount of wastewater coming out, and they are having a very high level of BOD in the wastewater. Here is the characteristics of dairy effluent based on certain important parameters. The pH, it will be 5 to 10.5, that is untreated. So it is either acidic or alkaline, but it should be neutral after treatment. So the range is 6.5 to 8. TDS, total dissolved solids, that is in mg per liter, that is 600 to 3000, but in treated it should be 210. The total suspended solid TSS, which could be 100 to 1100, but in treated water it should be 100. In oil and gas, milligram per liter, it could be 300 to 1300, but the permissible is 10. Then BOD, it could be 350 to 1800, but the permissible limit is 30. And COD, the untreated water can be 1100 to 2300, and the maximum permitted is 100. So this shows an idea about the level of effluent and what it should be after the treatment. In continuation of characteristics of dairy effluent, the BOD in milk and cream is very high. That is, the pure milk or pure cream, if we see that BOD, in case of milk it is about 1 lakh mg per liter, or it is ppm. Similarly, for cream it is more than 4 lakh mg per liter or 4 lakh ppm. In case of dairy plant effluent, I have already told previously, the BOD ranges 200 to 3500 mg per liter or ppm, and COD 500 to 7000 mg per liter or ppm. Now the dairy waste streams are also characterized by large variations in pH, so it can be very acidic or very alkaline depending on the nature of activity and nature of other chemicals used, cleaning procedure or detergents or sanitary material or the acidic detergent used and all that. And there will be wide fluctuations in flow rate and volume depending on the capacity of the plant and other activities. Here is a waste load equivalent of milk constituent. That is, for each separate constituent, what is their capacity of pollution or effluent load. So in case of milk fat, it is, if it is 1 kg, the BOD will be 0.89, and in milk protein in 1 kg it will be 1.03. In lactose it is from 1 kg 0.65, lactic acid from 1 kg 0.63. Whereas in case of COD, for milk fat it is 3 kg, for milk protein 1.36 kg, for lactose 1.13 kg. In other words, we can express it like 1% solution of whole milk, skim milk and whey result in 1800, 950 and 630 COD in mg per liter respectively. So if we make a 1% solution of all these ingredients, this is the value of COD. So let us understand the relevant legislation. There are several acts or law to prevent the pollution from any industry. So first one is water quality protection in terms of the National Water Act, which could be achieved via water use licenses, section 21F for discharges and 21G for disposal on land. Directives in terms of section 19 for preventing and remedying pollution. So these two sections guides and controls about the water use and their discharge. Then dairy plant waste could therefore be regulated through either the Environment Protection Act 1986, which has the protection of the total environment, that is water, air, soil, humans, flora and fauna, or the National Air Act 1981 or National Water Act 1974. The protection of water quality, including the environment against the effects of dairy waste disposed onto land, could also be achieved through Section 20 of the Environment Protection Act. So there are different acts. We can see the 3 acts which has got different provisions for controlling different industrial effluent to prevent the pollution of the environment. So now let us understand the objectives of effluent treatment. As I told, there are several laws and acts. As per that, we are not allowed to discharge this dirty water or wastewater to create any pollution, either air, water, etc. So basically the objective is to eliminate the threat of the disease for the human being, to prevent any human health hazard, conversion of effluent into readily reusable resources, conservation of water and its nutrients, in fact conservation of air and other environmental pollution. And this also, the objective is to stabilize the organic matter and to produce an eco-friendly pathogen-free effluent that can be released from the dairy plants. So now we will discuss about the strategy for effluent treatment, that is the dairy plant effluent treatment. Basically, it is divided into 2 categories, that is the primary and secondary. So while discussing about the effluent treatment for meat plant or abattoir, I have discussed it in that way, the primary treatment and secondary treatment. But here it is a more well established industry. So here the engineering point of view, the effluent treatment is divided into 3 categories. First is mechanical treatment, that is actually primary. It is done through screens, grit chamber, skimming tank and sedimentation tank. So all these I am going to explain now. And then second is chemical treatment, which is done through flocculation tank. And another is biological treatment, which we call secondary treatment. This is done by aerobic treatment, anaerobic treatment and sludge treatment. So all these things I am going to discuss step by step. So first we will talk about mechanical treatment. So this is a measure to remove the big materials particles which remain on the top as floating or which remain at the inside as a suspended materials. So here inclined position screens are used. Different kind of screen, they remove all these materials. They could be in the inclined position with the direction of the flow, or sometime in the flat like bar screens you can see in the figure. So these screens helps in removing the floating material or suspended material which can cause choking of the small pipes or affecting the working of effluent pump. So this is the first thing to do in effluent treatment, to remove the big things either in the top or inside the water through different kind of screens, that is the mechanical filtration devices. So here is grit chamber. This is another mechanical treatment to remove the heavy materials or particles. So this is called grit chamber, and this is all coming under the primary treatment. So first it goes through the different kind of screens. After that it goes to the grit chamber, where again some solid materials and particles goes through the stone like chambers. In the whole chamber there are small stones through which this whole water is passed through, and that prevents the grit and sand, all this thing, to retain, and the rest of the water goes for the next step of treatment. So this is another step for primary treatment or mechanical treatment, which is done through skimming tank. So here the effluent comes and falls into a big tank or pond like structure, in which at the bottom there is air pump which makes the things floating to the surface, all big things along with scum, and that is separated through mechanical skimming mechanism. So that helps in removing remaining any of the big things in the effluent. This is the next part for mechanical treatment, that is also called as sedimentation tank. It could be circular. So here the water, that is effluent, is allowed to settle for a long time. so that all the solid particles which is still remain in the effluent will settle down and makes a layer of sludge. So that sludge can be removed from the bottom, and then this water goes for the secondary treatment. So this is again another sedimentation tank. It is just like a large size pond. Sometimes it is made up of concrete, and earlier one was circular. This one is rectangular. So here the water is allowed to settle down. All the solid particles, heavy particles are allowed to settle, and that is collected as a sludge. And then the water is having a lot of dissolved substances, organic matters, which causes the pollution and BOD. That is removed through chemical and biological treatment. Now the second step is chemical treatment. In chemical treatment, there is a mechanism for precipitation. It starts with the flocculation tank, and the precipitation of insoluble phosphate is done here. So some chemical agents are used. Sometimes it can do coagulation and followed by precipitation. So sometimes different agents are used depending on the nature of the pollutant or effluent, like aluminum salts 100 to 1000 mg per liter at 4 to 7 pH, iron salts ferrous or ferric 200 mg per liter at 4 to 7 pH, then lime, that is calcium hydroxide 100 to 500 mg per liter with 9 to 11 pH, that will be always alkaline. Then polyelectrolyte, which is available in different brand name, and then chlorinated copper. So these are the different chemical agents used as flocculants, which helps in removing the suspended particles to come out and settle. Here we can see the figures, diagrams for flocculation tank in the left side, where the raw water is coming, then the chemicals are allowed to go and mixing is done. And after that, there are three different stages of mixing by high speed, medium speed and low speed. And then it is passed to the sedimentation tank. Like in the primary section, we have sedimentation tank. Here also there is sedimentation tank. So after flocculation, due to coagulation, all these suspended smaller particles, even some dissolved particles, will settle down. And then the remaining water goes for the biological treatment. Now the next stage, that is the main important effluent treatment, is biological treatment. It is also called as secondary treatment. So here main is removal of organic material and formation of sludge. So in the effluent, still there are a lot of organic material which can be removed biologically by using the bacteria. So this biological treatment is classified into two categories. One is aerobic treatment, another is anaerobic. Aerobic treatment means air is there and activated sludge is used. Activated sludge means it is like a culture which has got very important microbes which grows and uses all these substances which is present in the water and make it better. So this can be done through activated sludge or trickling filter. And then there is anaerobic treatment, in which it is done in a closed condition, so there will be no oxygen. So here it may be done through anaerobic contact process or upflow anaerobic filter. Here we can see the aerobic treatment under the biological treatment. So aerobic treatment, here the microorganisms are used and they oxidize the organic materials present in water into carbon dioxide and water in presence of oxygen. So because of this activity of microorganism, all the solid materials or dissolved materials are utilized and the water becomes good. So it is done through activated sludge process. We can see the diagram here. In the left side we can see that effluent is going inside into a big chamber, where the compressed air is going through aeration, and then mechanical mixer is there, and sludge, that is activated sludge which contains large amount of bacteria, is added, and that works on it and utilize all the solid materials and the water becomes better. Then it goes to the next chamber, and then from there the clean water goes out. And the sludge at the bottom which has got large amount of bacteria again, sometime it goes back for the use again. This is another aerobic treatment which is called trickling filter. So here the filter media like rock or plastic is used. That is the small stones like they are used, or sometimes plastic media, and the cultures are they are inside them and the effluent has to pass through that. So in the diagram bottom we can see that wastewater is going through this rock media where there is large amount of bacterial culture, and they utilize the solid substances or dissolved substances in the effluent or dirty water, and after they are utilized, that water becomes clean and it comes down to the right hand second chamber, from which we can see the separated sludge at the bottom and clean water at the top. This water is allowed to be going out as a discharge, and then it can go to the normal sewage, and this bottom sludge can be used like a activated sludge that is applied with the filter. So the second method under biological treatment is anaerobic treatment. In this case, the organic materials and nutrients present in water is utilized through anaerobic microbes. So there will be large tank, there will be no oxygen. Under anaerobic condition, microbes will break them into methane, carbon dioxide, ammonia and biomass. So these anaerobic processes can be anaerobic fermentation or anaerobic respiration. So I am going to talk more details about this process. Here is little bit chemistry in anaerobic treatment. There is two things I told: anaerobic fermentation of glucose to ethanol. So glucose is utilized, broken for energy, pyruvate and electron, and finally get ethanol in case of anaerobic fermentation. And in case of anaerobic respiration of glucose, it produces energy, pyruvate and electron, and finally it produces carbon dioxide, water, hydrogen sulfide, methane, nitrogen and all other components. Here we will see little more details about the principles of anaerobic treatment. So all the solid materials which could be there in the water, the substrates which could have either carbohydrates or fats or proteins, and they will be broken through hydrolysis. That is the first stage, to sugars, fatty acids and amino acids. And then it undergoes acidogenesis and it produces carbonic acids and alcohol, or hydrogen, carbon dioxide and ammonia. In the next step, it is called acetogenesis. That is the bacterial effect which breaks all these compounds into hydrogen, acetic acid and carbon dioxide. And the next step is methanogenesis. From this, methane is produced and we get the biogas, in which the 50 to 75% is methane. So this is the background of anaerobic treatment. Earlier I told this is one of the application of anaerobic treatment, which is called anaerobic contact process. So anaerobic contact process is essentially an anaerobic activated sludge process, which we have seen in case of aerobic method also. So here we can see that effluent is going to a big reactor where this closed chamber and all anaerobic bacteria will be there to act on the materials present in the water and produces the gas. Now next we can see there is a degasifier and biogas is taken out and collected or can be utilized or it can be released, and then there is a settling tank in which all the solids or the sludge will settle and the clean water will be allowed to come out as a treated effluent. This sludge can be collected and used for other purpose, or it may need some more treatment, which I am going to tell next. Now the final treatment, we have already discussed mechanical, chemical and biological treatment. So after primary and secondary treatments, solids and liquid generating from the dairy plant are treated separately before they are released. The liquid effluent is disinfected by addition of chlorine. So the treated liquid, which is already good and not having any pollutants, that is applied with chlorine. Usually chlorine gas is injected into the effluents before it is discharged into the normal water course or sewage. Before its release, the effluent should possess a certain quality as per standard of government agency. So this I have told at the beginning, as per the rules in the Water Act, Air Act, there is specified what each parameter I have told there. It has a maximum permissible limit. So we have to reach to that limit after the treatment. Here once again we can see the whole process of effluent treatment, that is primary and secondary, which I have already explained step by step. We can see that raw sewage passing through screens, then comminutor, then grit chamber, then it goes to primary clarifier and some sludge is removed, then it goes primary effluent treatment and then aeration tank, that is secondary treatment, and from there the sludge is coming out and then it goes to the secondary clarifier, then there is disinfectant and then this discharge water. Now the treated water has to be disinfected, and here is the treatment for sludge. So sludge treatment, that is sludge is collected in thickening tanks, add chemical for aggregation and break down organic matter. In this process of anaerobic treatment, we get methane and carbon dioxide, which are the main components of digester, and this methane can be utilized as fuel for heating or other purposes. This digester sludge, a homogeneous, practically odorless, it will be dark colored substance with 94 to 97% moisture content. But this is already treated, so you will not have any dirty things or polluting capacity. Here once again it is showing the complete process of treatment, and we can see the last part for the sludge treatment. So the pollutant goes through bar screen, grit chamber, settling tank, then some sludge is coming down, and then it goes to secondary treatment, that is aeration tank, settling tank, and then the treated water goes through disinfection, and the final stage settling tank gives the sludge. This sludge we will undergo through digester and then sludge drying bed. Then this sludge can be used for many purposes, which we will see next. So in the final stages of sludge treatment, this, as I told, it has got large amount of water, so that water should be removed. Sometimes it can be done through sludge drying bed, as you can see in the figure, or it can be done through decanter centrifuge. So with the help of large centrifuge, all the water can be removed. So after drying or concentrating, this sludge can be used as a fertilizer. This will have a very high value as a fertilizer, or it can be used as landfill. That is, wherever there is low land, it can be filled, or sometime it can be deposited as a waste. So this is briefly about the sludge treatment. So now we are at the end of today's lecture. Once again, in this diagram, the whole process of effluent treatment is given, which I have discussed. So today we have discussed about the treatment of effluent coming from the dairy plant. First we have discussed what is effluent, what is the pollution capacity and parameters, what are the sources of effluent, what are the characteristics of effluent, what are the different parameters and their limit, or there is level of effluent present, level of pollutant present, and what level it should have after the treatment. And then we have discussed the step by step the method of effluent treatment, that is the first is mechanical treatment, then chemical treatment, and then biological treatment. In biological treatment there is aeration or aerobic method, and there is anaerobic method. So all these details we have discussed, but some more details are available in my previous lecture, that is the effluent treatment for abattoir and meat plant. There you can see some more details. I will put the link at the description box. Thank you.